It's time for SRT Radio. Yeah.
About to go through some of these college football awards, the SRT college football awards, that is. All right, so my baller of the year this year goes to the UCF Golden Knights for going undefeated and doing what they needed to do after in 2 years they was winless. So shout out to UCF for maintaining and staying consistent this year.
I went with Baker Mayfield, man.
Okay.
I had to take my hat off to him. He had some hiccups on the field, crotch grabbing, tripping with some other teams, other fans actually in the stands. So, there were some issues with him running from the police. I guess all that could
He didn't run far.
be considered as being a baller. He just balled out.
State running back Rashad Penny led the nation in rushing, 2,027 yards, also 19 touchdowns. And for him to not be a finalist for the Doak Walker Award, he could have at least gotten a Heisman finalist invite. They only invited 3 players. I felt he should get somebody. He was a first-team All-American, so he's clearly at least one of the 2 best running backs in the country.
Exactly.
So I decided to recognize him for my Baller of the Year award.
All right, Offensive Player of the Year next, right? The Offensive Player of the Year is no other than Baker Mayfield, 41 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 203.8. That is amazing.
My offensive player of the year is Lamar Jackson, who actually had a better statistical year than he had last year. Thing about this is we look at Heisman Trophy winners a little more critical the next year if they're eligible to come back and play.
Right.
And probably, you want to say if he'd have been on a better team, if they'd have won more games, but they didn't contend for a national championship last year, if you want to be honest about it.
Yeah.
So, anyway, with what he did again on the field to surpass what he did the previous year, Lamar Jackson, my offensive player of the year.
Okay. All right, G.
All right, my Offensive Player of the Year is, I think one of the, just watch, I didn't get to watch him play too much, but he had some Antonio Brown type abilities, and that's Anthony Miller, wide receiver from Memphis. 92 catches, 1,407 yards, and 17 touchdowns.
Ooh.
And he had 6 games in which he had at least 140 yards receiving. Just from what I saw, you can look at, with the level of competition or anything like that. Yeah, it seemed like no one could really guard him. Using his speed, he looks like he has great hands. I don't know how he projects on the next level because he's 5'10", and anybody under 6 feet, the NFL kind of sticks their nose up at sometimes. But he's one of the most electrifying players in the country.
Player of the Year, I am going with Roquan Smith, linebacker out of UGA. When you are a junior and can be the best player on arguably the best defense in the land, you are a baller. So Roquan Smith has done a great job. Actually, D. Will, you can probably speak on this when you come up, but his draft status has gone up, and up. They talking about him possibly now being a top 10 pick. So Roquan Smith, you are my defensive player of the year.
My defensive player of the year is none other than Bradley Chubb, defensive lineman with the North Carolina State North Carolina State Wolfpack. I apologize for that. Chubb is one of those guys that wrecks offenses that you have to game plan for. And that's, to me, what you look for in that standout defensive player. I want you to be able, you have to go into the week saying, this is a guy we have to block. We have to account for him every play, every week, because he's a game changer. He can create that fumble. He can come through in that timely turnover to turn a game. So to me, Chubb did that. He exhibited that this year. I think he'll be a high round, probably top 4 to 5 pick in the draft coming up, if depending on the combines. For some reason, when they go and put on shorts and tank tops, the book changes on these guys. The same thing happened with Deshaun Jackson. I just don't understand. But anyway, Bradley Chubb is my defensive player of the year.
I agree with Hancock. My defensive player of the year is Bradley Chubb. 10 sacks, 72 total tackles. And from what I saw from him, he was very quick off the ball to where it seemed like that the tackle is still hasn't moved yet. By the time Chubb is already moving. One thing I do like is with defensive ends, everyone always looks at how they rush the passer. I think he was very good against the run as well, to where in a lot of key short yardage situations he was making a tackle in the backfield. I do think he'll be a top 10 pick at the very least. You can't have too many pass rushers on your team, so if a team doesn't get the quarterback that they want, even though that is questionable in a totally different conversation, I think any team would be lucky to get Bradley Chubb on their team.
Of course, if you listen to the shows, archive shows, this guy's been a bust of the week for me 2 or 3 times, and that's Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, you got to beat Michigan State. You got to beat Ohio State. Hey, you got to beat Penn State. And now that Scott Frost is at Nebraska, you're going to have to beat Nebraska. My buster of the year.
Well, just like D. Will said, sometimes you have to bring it on home. My buster of the year is the Florida State Seminole. Going into the year, we looking at a team that was ranked top 2, 3 in the nation.
That was 2.
And sometimes we say the wheels come off with a car wreck. So, I could almost have said, Florida State being the bust of the year, Jimbo could have been bust of the year and ball of the year from taking a train wreck job and turning it into a $75 million job.
Yeah.
At Texas A&M, that's baller. But I'm going to go with Florida State as being my bust of the year. This doesn't happen to universities that have pedigree like that.
Yeah.
To have a season like this. So Florida State, you get my bust of the year.
Because we talked about in the last couple of weeks is University of Tennessee football, everything, the staff, the ladies, the crew, everybody, just from. And it can go back a couple of years to where they should have won the division a couple of times.
Yes.
Basically, look at the whole Butch Jones era, and Georgia was down to where they had the talent to win the division and actually compete for the SEC championship. That didn't happen. And then with the cluster bleep of firing their coach, and then I felt like they called every other coach in America, every other college coach in America didn't want their job. And just the whole process of that, they don't know what they want to do. They bring back Fulmer, and to where he may have strong-armed his way into being the coach of Tennessee at first, back in '92, and now he kind of strong-armed his way into being the athletic director. I don't know where he's taking this car in Knoxville, but it doesn't look well. I'm looking forward to more jokes from Tennessee.
DeAndre Swift, sophomore running back for Georgia. I know Dez gonna like that. As a sophomore, he had 597 yards, 3 touchdowns. I can guarantee you, next year, with the talent that they bring in at Georgia, he is going to be a person to watch, and he could lead the SEC in rushing next year.
My guy who's next plays at a university that we I guess we didn't give respect all year long. Well, I know I didn't. And this was Wisconsin. Running back Jonathan Taylor of Wisconsin, I think, will be the next. He will be one of those in that long line of running backs that Wisconsin seems to put out. They have a big offensive line and they run the football. That's one thing you're going to get from them is a ground attack. They don't really throw the football effectively. They do it enough to just get by. But the way he runs the football with the speed and power, playing in the Big Ten, I think he will be the next. Now, I think the schedule will get a little tougher than it was this year.
No doubt.
But I don't think that will matter a lot. This guy's legit.
What has Jim Harbaugh lacked since he came to Michigan is a quarterback. And next year, he will have Shea Patterson transferring from Ole Miss to Michigan. From seeing him play, he's gotten a lot of Johnny Manziel comparisons. I don't think he's going to be exactly like that, but he's a dynamic player who can make plays, and that's what Harbaugh needs is a quarterback who can make plays. He's coming off a knee injury, but he should be able to get his. There shouldn't be an issue with him transferring because of the Ole Miss distinctions from the NCAA.
Right.
But we'll see what Jim Harbaugh can do with a guy who can actually play quarterback, and it's not a statue like who he's been putting out there.
The Memphis UCF championship game, what a game. It was very, 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 very exciting. I watched every snap of the game.
It was a hard decision, man, because
Yes.
I did like the Memphis and UCF game. Even the week before that, the UCF South Florida game was a
good too.
beast.
Yeah.
The game I went with, though, was the Ohio State-Penn State game.
Okay.
If you remember, that game came down to really JT turning up and balling out in the fourth quarter to win that game.
Yeah,
for them.
13 for 13.
Yeah, he balled out. And the reason I say that was the biggest and best game, I'll go with that one, because the next week, that week it took so much out of them. The next week, Ohio State went to Iowa and got the 50-piece put on.
Yeah.
So leaving it all on the field right then to win that game showed how big and how much it took out of them. And that's what I always talk about when teams have to play those big games. The next week, you never know what team's going to show up.
Ohio State game, Penn State made all the plays in the first half to where it seemed like they were just way above, levels above Ohio State. And then J.T. Barrett he kind of showed why he's been this great quarterback for so many decades at Ohio State. He had that great fourth quarter, and this would have been his Heisman moment if he was able to keep that kind of streak going. Like you said, it took a lot of them. They went to Iowa and just laid an egg.
Yeah.
And even it was such a great game, you still thought that Penn State had a chance to win the conference and win the national championship. Saquon Barkley seemed like, when I saw that opening kickoff that he took back for a touchdown, I was like, this game is over.
Right.
I thought it was over right then because it took all the energy out of the Ohio State crowd, but they were able to come back but it was a pretty good game.
Crew. SR.